influence plays a very key role. The people you see succeeding in what they do have mastered the ability of developing some kind of loyalty from people who follow them or people who associate with them. Your ability to lead is dependent on how you communicate with your teammates, because it also impacts the level of motivation and it builds a certain culture around you and the team. No one is born being an expert communicator. Everybody we see who we admire as very effective and very good at how they relate and communicate with people has had to deal with some internal roadblock. Why are you shy, and in what moments are you shy? Or why are you anxious? Why do you feel you have imposter syndrome? When does it show up? And for most people, it shows up at the opportune time. Communication is more than speaking and giving people instructions, especially from coaches and trainers. Invest in things that people cannot take away from you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we are delving into the two most powerful tools. And I'm sure our guest today will be able to agree with me that indeed they're the two most powerful tools, not only in sports, but even out of sports: communication and influence. What does those two tools mean to you, Doreen, maybe even before you introduce yourself? Communication and influence.
Communication and influence.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. Those two things are key. I think there's something that run in my bloodline, because I believe they are tools that are necessary for people to get the outcomes that they want. If harnessed and used properly, communication and influence can help you navigate a lot of barriers and end up with win-win outcomes as a result of having that ability to know how to put what you want across. And it can prevent you from staying stuck and not getting solutions, which we see happen with a lot of people.
Yeah. And maybe just viewers to let us know more about today's episode. Joining me is a true game changer, former national hockey team captain, Blazers star, Blazers Hockey Club, and Strathmore Scorpions icon, Doreen Barasa. She's not just a champion on the field. She's been able to be a coach, a trainer, and a speaker, and she has mastered the art of influence. And today, as we unpack communication, wins, games, building brands, and creating legends here at Wima Sports, indeed, where we are championing sports development, get ready for a powerful insight, real stories, and winning strategies that you don't want to miss. So stay tuned as you join us as we get to unpack the importance and mastering influence in sports and how communication shapes who we are within sports. Karibu sana, Doreen.
Okay, thank you very much, Jermaine.
Yeah, maybe if you can tell us two things that you've learned so far on communication that has really changed your life.
I've learned a lot about communication, and most of it is the fact that it first happens internally before it happens externally. So the level of awareness that you have about yourself, your emotional intelligence, your limiting beliefs, and all that play a very big role in how you relate with people outside of you. Your internal dialogue really matters, because when you speak, you are listening to yourself. Yeah? And I've also learned that influence plays a very key role. The people you see succeeding in what they do have mastered the ability of developing some kind of loyalty from people who follow them or people who associate with them, to the point that they don't have to use manipulation, coercion, or even force to get what they want. So it is possible to harness and use influence to get outcomes that are for good and for the benefit of all. I've learned that those two things are very, very important. They are key and they are real.
Yeah. Yes. And indeed, I agree, they're key and they're real, because if we look at how the entire world operates, just to get out of the topic a little bit, but if you look at how the entire world operates, it revolves around communication and influence. The decisions that countries make to relate with another country centered around communication and influence. The decision that two companies come together to build a community project still around communication and influence. So as we gear towards championing sports development here in Nairobi, Kenya, and create a ripple effect into East Africa and Africa, communication is one key pillar that we should build on as athletes, federations, organizations, associations, and the entire sports value chain. How important is communication compared to talent when it comes to winning games in a sports team?
Communication is key, and I believe it unlocks the talent. We have seen spaces and teams where there is raw talent in there, but because of lack of proper connection as a result of communication breakdown, they end up losing out on championships, on sponsorships, and many other opportunities that they would have had. On the flip side, there are teams which can have averagely talented players, but because they have a connection as a result of proper communication that happens internally and even within the team, then you find that when an opportunity arises or presents itself, they're able to capitalize on it, they're able to get the sponsorship and whatnot. So when it comes to comparing talent and communication, it might not come as a direct comparison really, but I have a bias towards communication because then it's able to unlock the talent, it's able to bring out the strategy into fruition. So when teams are well connected, there is effective communication top down, bottom up, across. It is very easy for that team to grow to a level that even exceeds their expectations, despite the kind of talent that they have within the team.
That is really true. If, as you were saying that, I was thinking about SEAL Team 6, the elite soldiers. Communication is key in all the operations they do. And yes, they operate as a team. Yes, they're talented in different ways. There's a dog handler, there's a sniper, there's a guy who's best with shotgun rifles. There all those different talents within a team. But you realize how much they train to perfection on communication to make the mission successful. And the same translates with teams, just as you've said, just to echo it, a team that is well communicated or that has communication well is standing a higher chance on winning a game or winning a championship. And this is within the field and in the changing room.
That one is very
And after the changing room. Yes. From your experience as a former national team captain, how did communication impact the morale and unity of your squad?
huge, big time. I remember when I joined Telcom then, before it changed to Orange and then currently Blazers, when I realized that I was being mentored and being prepared to take over as the captain, one of the things I did is I was very intentional in books that were teaching me about communication skills and about how to lead a team. There was a specific book, a very small one that I remember buying from a bookshop. And one of the things that was emphasized there was your ability to lead is dependent on how you communicate with your teammates, because it also impacts the level of motivation and it builds a certain culture around you and the team. Okay, so back then I remember being very intentional about it, and I had to learn how do I communicate by myself. And now that I'm going to be in charge of this team in the field and off the field, how do I want to communicate with my teammates in a way that they feel they're part of this team, in a way that they feel they want to belong to this team, in a way that when you are having a high pressure situation and you're giving people instruction, they know you're not attacking them, but you're correcting them. Yeah. So after learning that, I realized it had a very big impact. I was not blinded and I did not want to make any assumptions that I'm already good. Now that I'm the leader, I know. Having good communication skills made it very enjoyable for me to be a captain. And I would always get that kind of feedback that you really understand how to talk to people. When somebody is in this mood or somebody is not feeling this, I would first use empathy and find out what's happening and correct with love. So it made a very big difference as opposed to making assumptions and just being abrasive or operating from a place of ignorance. Yeah, it made a very big difference.
By the time you were still at Blazers or Telcom then, how many championships were you able to win during your time there?
We won all the championships.
Back to back.
Yeah, back to back. And there was pressure. You know, there was pressure. It's always easy to get to the top, but maintaining is not easy. Any champion will tell you that because everyone else is coming for that slot. They want to topple you, right? So it was not, we won the championships back to back, but there was a lot of effort going on, practicing the technical bit and finding ways in which we can gel as a team. I remembered a particular time when we were transitioning the team and we had some young players coming in, okay? And then we had the older players who were being phased out. They were phasing out gradually. And so there was still this gap that needed to be filled. And one of the things I remember that we initiated with the permission of the team manager and the coach was to call the new players aside. And we had a very nice conversation somewhere in town. If they are watching, some of them I know will remember. And we were each talking about our goals for the team. What do we envision? What is so intimidating about playing in your position? We're very vulnerable with each other, okay? And we got to know each other in such a deep way. Who was the joker? So you realize in the field someone is serious, but off the field they're the funniest person. Okay, this person comes from this place, this one likes this one. And we were very honest. When you shouted at me, I didn't take it nicely. I would prefer if you told me this, I will listen. We bonded, and I'm telling you that team laid a very good foundation for even the current team that is here right now. And if they're watching, they can attest to that. Yeah. So having that session on the side, bonding as a result of communication, vulnerability, active listening, made a very huge difference, and it contributed to the back-to-back winning of the tournaments and the championships.
Yes. There's one important aspect that you started with, communication starting from within, deep within. How maybe if you just can take us through, how do you walk through with clients or people who need to understand first what's happening within me that's affecting how I communicate and how can I improve this?
So this is very personal and also very practical because it is something I believe everybody has gone through. And before I answer that, I would like to state that when it comes to communication, no one is born being an expert communicator. Everybody we see who we admire as very effective and very good at how they relate and communicate with people has had to deal with some internal roadblocks or issues. But the thing is, they know how to manage it, so they don't seem to exhibit it whenever they're associating with people. That's the first thing I tell people. Secondly, there is statistics that have proven that public speaking, communication skills is one of the fears that people have. So when I share this with people, I do this to let them know that that internal issue you're going through is not unique to you. So you don't need to hide it. You can be vulnerable enough to talk about it. And then we go deeper and we find out, why are you shy and in what moments are you shy? Or why are you anxious? Why do you feel you have imposter syndrome? When does it show up? And for most people, it shows up at the opportune time. For a player, it could be during the semi-final match or final when they've been fielded and they need to show up for their team, and these internal roadblocks begin to show up. So once we identify, we go to what could be the root cause. Most of the time it's psychological, and research has shown it is as a result of past or childhood experiences. So it's very interesting that something can happen to you in your childhood. It remains with you because of the memories that were attached to it. And then it replays or shows up in a different form at the opportune time. So as a 7-year-old child, maybe you were doing a presentation in front of people in a group, and then you got shy and you walked off the stage and people laughed at you. But now, 20 years later, you're 27, you're going for a championship, but your subconscious mind remembers the shame that was attached to people who laughed at you. And then it shows up the same way in the field, that now the crowd is going to laugh at you because you don't know how to stop the ball. So how we go about it is identifying the root cause. When we identify the root cause, then we are able to work through it in a process that we follow. And there are instances where I can say that there are people who actually need intervention in terms of therapy, because now this trauma keeps showing up and it ends up sabotaging them. So that is how I take my people through the identifying what is the internal roadblock, how can we go about it, and then practical tools on how to overcome them.
Is there a story that you can share where poor communication caused a defeat as you played?
Maybe this one I'll be very general.
Yes.
But okay, for the time when I was playing, we really had a very synchronized team. We were so well bonded and well connected. I hardly remember any defeats, especially when I was playing for Orange Telecom Stroke Blazers and even for Strathmore. But there are highlights. There are instances where you find that you're training for a certain match. It doesn't have to be a championship. Yeah? And perhaps you are changing the strategy of how you want to play, the format, 4-4-2, 2-3-3, something of the sort. And then because how it was communicated, it was not well understood. Okay? Or it was assumed to have been understood. So now when you go to the field to try this new format to play so that you can defend your title or whatnot, you find that it is not working. And what happens at that point, when it's a high pressure game, there is panic, there's confusion. And then when the team is experiencing low emotional intelligence, you'll find blame game. And when people talk more than they play, and then you find that you're conceding because everyone wants to defend themselves. So there were highlights of such instances where you'd start the blame game, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. The next thing you know, the ball has passed all of you and then it's inside. And people are, the opponents are celebrating. Yeah, so there are those instances, one or two, but you learn from them very quickly because you realize it makes a very costly mistake.
What's one thing about communication that you'd like athletes, sports organization to learn in regards to communication, coaching staff? What's that one thing that you'd like them to see about communication?
To look at it and give it the value that it deserves. That communication is more than speaking and giving people instructions, especially from coaches and trainers. It involves the whole loop of you giving or speaking, making sure that you do it with clarity and that people have understood, and then being open to feedback. So I would request or urge people to look at communication as something that is very vital because it can make or break the team. Even if you're not going for a championship, how do you relate outside the field? Okay? And then understand that this same communication builds connection. When there is connection, there is trust. When there is trust in that team, there is a culture that is being cultivated. And that is a champion's culture. So it gets easier to influence decisions for the better. If there is someone in the team who is straying because of indiscipline, as a result of communication and the culture you've built of openness, active listening, of connecting, it's easy for them to be influenced back, as opposed to having a culture where you don't communicate, you don't connect, you don't care. This person can just go astray, and yet they are the most gifted people. So people should look at communication like something that is very vital and brings all other aspects together.
We have athletes, we have coaches, we have team managers who these days are on positions of influence. And once in a while or several times in a season they find themselves in front of a camera, or they're being interviewed, or they're doing a podcast. Uh, how can athletes better their communication, or all these people who find themselves in position of influence, and how can they better their communication?
One, you have to invest in yourself. Part of investing in yourself is investing in skills that can help you for the positions you are in and the positions you are aspiring to get into. Why that's important is so that you don't sabotage the opportunities when they present themselves. If you win a championship and our potential investor is listening to your remarks and you cannot express yourself articulately, you can imagine what is going on through these people. They'll probably be wondering, I would love to invest, but if you people cannot communicate or articulate yourself well, then we might be having a very difficult time when it comes to conflict or managing some finer details of our agreement. So I would urge people in positions of influence, because you're already there, by virtue of that, invest in your communication skills. It opens other doors for you to access people and spaces that can even add more muscle and more of what you need in your space.
Speaking of influence, athletes also once again, get exposed to areas where your game has got you here. You're now in a new platform, and boom, things are just falling in place, and now you start becoming a influential person as your career goes. How can athletes harness this power of influence beyond the field into negotiating contracts, into brand partnerships? And we're seeing that rise so fast with Kenya Sevens currently, Kenya Lionesses currently. How can they master that position of influence into negotiating contracts and brand partnerships?
Wow, great question. It reminds me of a statistic or a research that has been done and concluded that the success of your business, your career, your relationships largely depends on 85% of your ability to communicate. Huh?
Yeah.
And communication has got other elements like emotional intelligence and whatnot. The other 15% of the success you have is on your technical skills. So your technical skills will get you to a certain level. You're very good. Everybody can see you. But now you need to go to the next level and negotiate for deals, for partnership, for brand sponsorship. If you cannot be able to articulate yourself well, as much as your technical skills got you here, that was 15%, you will miss out on everything that the 85% could have done for you. So the first thing is for people to understand that statistic alone, that your career success, your relationship success, and your business largely depends on 85%, mostly of your communication skills and other soft skills. So it's for you to develop them so that you narrow that gap and make sure it comes to 100%. You have your technical skills, but you will be onboarded by the sponsors, the corporates, the brand ambassador, depending on your ability to communicate well, to relate well with people, and all elements surrounding communication skills.
I was laughing because, I was being amazed by that statistics. I mean, 15%
Yes.
of example of what Faith does, Faith Kipyegon. 15%, that hard work, that time that she spends training is only 15%.
Yes.
Now, your ability to communicate, all the other soft skills and all these other things is what improves your level of influence to the ability of other growths.
Very true.
Which is 85%.
Yes, because you can imagine you're gifted, you're breaking records. If you cannot listen to your coach, if you cannot work with teammates, if you cannot train with others, if you cannot listen to the advice of your of your medical doctor, of your fitness instructor. That is communication taking place.
Yeah.
You will not even go to 16%. You'll remain with your 15 and start going back all the way to 0%.
Yeah.
But there are people who, if we look at somebody, say like Usain Bolt, somebody else we can also say compare. We've seen his 15%, a lot of technical hard work. But beyond that, why do the brand sponsors come for you? Okay? Because they know there is a way you know how to relate with people. There is a way you know how to deal with situations. There is a way you know how to adapt to different cultures. There is a way they know how you can influence people because of your core values. All those are elements of communication. And if you lack them, you will stick at the 15%, and you'll keep wondering, why is someone coming from behind and I'm not more talented than them? I'm more gifted. I was the top scorer, best footballer, best goalkeeper, but they seem to be climbing higher up in the hierarchy and spaces of influence. They've mastered that art of working on their 85%.
What are some powerful communication strategies young athletes can use to build trust quickly, more so with teammates and coaches?
When it comes to communication, one thing that is very important is your ability to be authentic. Just be real. Nobody likes dealing with a fake person. When people realize you're fake or you're a pretender, then they cut you off, either very subtly or very explicitly. So one way teammates can build that team cohesion, just be real and authentic with yourself. And being real does not mean you communicate abrasively. You can also communicate respectfully. So be authentic, be respectful, okay? And when it comes to the finer elements, things like active listening, when somebody is expressing themselves, having empathy and trying to put yourself in another person's position so that you ask yourself, how would I feel if I'm spoken to like that? Those are things that generally build relationships themselves, even not just teammates, even relationships. And that can bring a lot of cohesion, because there's nothing as good as stepping into the field and knowing I'm playing alongside my teammate who understands me beyond the skill, okay? Yeah. If I'm not having a good day in office, they're empathetic enough to correct me respectfully and tell me what to do, and I'm able to respond in the same way. Another thing would be also being open to feedback and not personalizing feedback. One thing I would like people to understand even today is that feedback is feedback. You know, the way this is white, yeah. Feedback is feedback. Yeah. You're not supposed to personalize feedback. Learn to depersonalize. So when somebody is correcting you or sharing the feedback, understand that it is valid and it's from their point of view, and you don't have to personalize it and feel like you need to defend yourself. So when you develop that within a team, then it's easy for you to know somebody's correcting me to make me a better person, and they're not doing it to put me down. But even if that's the intention, you've still depersonalized from it. Get the learning, work on it, drop what doesn't make sense.
And one thing that sometimes we get to perceive wrongly about relationships, when you say relationships, people just think of, husband, wife, yes. Boy, girl. Yes. But as an athlete, you're having many relationships, teammate relationship, coach, trainer, medical, media,
even fans,
yeah. All these other many relationships that you need to manage. Sponsors,
very true.
Corporate, how do you relate with them? Yeah. So what role does nonverbal communication? This is body language. This is the facial expressions. This is the laughs that sometimes come out sarcastic. What roles do they play during a game or during negotiations for athletes or sports deals? Team managers are trying to do something. How can we master our nonverbal cues?
If people only understood how crucial, important, and the weight that nonverbal cues carry, they'll take themselves more seriously and they would be very intentional. Again, there is a recent statistic that is used in communication studies. It's known as the 7-38-55 rule. And according to that research, it's by a professor. He states that out of the whole message that you're passing across, 7% is carried by the words. 38% is carried by your tone. And a whooping 55% of your message is weighted on your body language.
Wow.
So I can speak certain words and act in a certain way, and people will say, from your body language, I either believe you or I don't believe you, because my body language carries more weight. If I approach a sponsor and I speak and tell them that I'm going to make sure when you sponsor my team, we're going to win this championship, I'm speaking what they want to hear, but my body language is nonchalant from the way I'm dressing, from the way I'm behaving. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm looking around the room. Do you really think they're going to buy into it?
No.
They will not, because psychologically, body language carries 55% of the message you're passing across. So it's important for people to understand this, okay? And you also understand that before you open your mouth to speak, people take 0 to 10 seconds to first judge you. So they're looking at your body language. So when you open your mouth to speak, the tone you're using, is it professional? Is it casual? That's a 38%. When you put these two together, you have 93%.
3%.
And then you're going to tell people, I gave them all the information, I told them what they want to hear, but you didn't get the deal. You didn't get the opportunity that you really wanted. So people must understand that body language plays a very important role. Closer home, on the field, the coach is telling you from the bench, can you move this way? Can you press? And you look at him or her and sneer. You know, automatically they register that as disrespect. You haven't spoken.
Yeah.
You've just rolled your eyes and
5% out.
you know, the next thing you know, maybe it's substitution, or you even your body language towards the umpire. Sometimes we don't even speak to the referees, but your body language and the gestures that you make are enough even for you to be carded at some point. All right? You could be posing danger through your body language to other people. So we need to understand. Sports people, let's understand. Your body language makes a very big difference. It carries 55% of your message, and you have to be very intentional and sober about it. Don't approach situation casually, especially if you know you want to influence a certain outcome.
Powerful, man. Wow. I think we should just wrap it up already. But just because of our viewers, and we'd like to not cut you short, in moments of high pressure during games, what type of communication wins at the locker room?
Wow. There is no set type of, I would say, communication, but I want to believe the culture that has been set within the team environment can determine if things will go south or not. Okay? There are instances where the games are high pressure, and what needs to be done is to calm everyone down fast. Make sure everyone is calm so that the instructions that are being given can penetrate, can be understood, can be processed. There are instances where it's a high pressure game, and the communication that needs to be put across should be tough, respectful, still with empathy, but more motivating for people to, not leave room for casualness and error. So I think it depends, but the baseline is to always deploy empathy and respect when you're communicating. Because you need to ask yourself, if what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it is not going to make the situation better, then I would rather not say it. And this means that whoever is passing information in a high pressure situation, you must develop the skill to read a room, to read the mood. It's a communication skill that you can learn so that you know how you can tailor make your message in a way that it will be understood based on what is going on at that time. So it's high pressure. Your players could be panicking or even crying, but you need to find a way to talk to them. So you need to read the room and know, how do I approach these ones? like this or like this. And there are those ones who need to be told directly that this is what you're doing, this is what you need to stop doing. So in terms of what needs to be done, at that point, when you're in authority, your ability to read the room, despite your culture, and could do it with empathy, do it respectfully, and then make sure people understand this is the outcome we are working towards. So when we leave the changing room, we're all on the same wavelength. This is what we want. It was not being attacked. It was not blame game. The coach was correcting me because all of us want this outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very important.
And on the receptive end, if I get it right, I also need to master calmness.
Exactly.
Because if I'm not calm, I might not pick the communication in the right way.
Very, very true. And when it comes to calmness, there is something, emotional intelligence and communications, they go hand in hand. So your ability to regulate your emotions in that high pressure zone. Because if you are panicking and all these other internal roadblocks are louder in your mind than what you're listening to, then what you need to do will not penetrate. So your ability to be calm under pressure is part of self-regulation, which is entirely up to you, so that you can listen to feedback with an open mind instead of a defensive mind. And that way it's easy for you to go back to the field and know, yes, I've done this, I was being corrected, and I need to improve, because people know your capability when they're telling you to do something. And stop looking at things as an attack. Just look at things objectively and constructively.
Yeah.
But sometimes how we say it normally tilts everything. So those are things that people need to learn.
As you're saying all this, sometimes you sing me smile. I'm thinking through on instances that I have failed on in regards to communication, in regards to perception, in regards to being on the receiving end, but your mind is not there. And it affects a deal, it affects work-to-work colleague relationship, it affects personal relationships. And I agree, this is super huge on coming from deep within. Yes. What are you fighting deep within? And and that then affects all these other things on how you get to communicate effectively, and also you get to receive communication effectively.
I've seen instances where you find maybe the team loses, maybe the goalkeeper concedes towards the dying minutes of the game, and the way they wear it, you can see it even in their body language, that we've seen it with sports people. You feel like you let the whole team down. So it could be in the first half, first quarter, or even at the end of the game. When you go to the changing room and your teammates and your coach and the other people in the team are reinforcing that you're the one who let us down, yet you give your best, it's very different from somebody approaching you and telling you, you gave your best, but even the best goalkeepers concede. So you can learn from it. Your reaction was a bit late, or you were unfit. You can look at it differently and learn from it. So it's how you also get the feedback, but also the culture. How do people talk to each other when things are good and when things are bad? Is it authentic? And when it's authentic, is it abrasive or is it respectful? Does it come with empathy or is it condescending? Those are things that make a very big difference. And you'll find there's some people who, they never win anything, but they'll never quit their teams because they've bonded beyond the skills. They relate to each other respectfully. They know they can cover each other's backs, and they know that beyond the field, in my workspace, I can refer you for a job, I can refer you for a contract, I can refer you for a business, because you have demonstrated that ability to see me beyond my shortfalls or whatever it is. And those are the people who grow together beyond the field.
Beyond the field. Yeah. And an area where gets athletes and a couple of professionals within the sporting sector gets to be exposed to is public speaking. And all that has happened, you're from the locker room. Immediately you're walking out, there's this media guy on your face like, your heart is doing that. there's mastering the art of calmness, there's public speaking and making things relate. You already have a sponsor who's also watching you on how you respond to some of the things. What key advice would you give athletes on managing public speaking, media interviews, and specifically handling fame that gets to kill many athletes?
Invest. It's a skill that you can invest in. You can invest in your ability to communicate. And a specific skill is known as impromptu speaking, your ability to think on your feet, to respond appropriately to the questions that have been asked within that window period. Just invest in your personal development. I would insist on that, because when you invest in things that people cannot take away from you, then you become a better person, and whichever space you show up, you're able to replicate that. You're able to do something about it. You don't stay stuck. But going deeper, I would also like people to understand that public speaking, it doesn't come naturally. After death, it is the second most feared thing. Glossophobia. Yes,
Yeah,
that people, it's known as glossophobia. And 75% of the entire population, these are statistics confirmed, 75% of the entire population have experienced glossophobia at one point in their lives, including the very people who we really admire, okay? It is only that they have learned the root cause and how to manage. So instead of disqualifying yourself as an athlete and saying that I'm only good in the field, I can't speak in front of people, why don't you put in a little bit more effort, just like what you put in practice, and develop this skill so that when the opportune moment comes, then you're able to speak your mind. And in the process, you have to understand you're not aiming for perfection. It is always progress over perfection. Good is better than not done. Yeah. So I urge people to invest in themselves. And why I say this with so much concern, when I'm coaching people, I have had it numerous times where they would say there was an opportunity for promotion. There is somebody who showed up at our workplace. I really admire them, but I could not walk up to them and talk to them because I just didn't have the courage. But when you start investing in yourself, you learn how to do it, you build courage, you build competence, you build confidence, you get better. And the more the opportunities show up, the more it becomes natural for you. So athletes, invest in it. And let the media be ready, for you, and you're also ready for them, for the questions.
Yeah, bring it on, media.
Yeah. Don't see them and then you run away.
You duck away. No, coach, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
On to the quick fire segment question. Text or call? Which is more influential for building trust fast?
I believe it's the call.
It's the call.
Yes.
Why so?
I say so because when you receive a text, depending on the mood you're in, you might interpret it like that.
Yeah, so
You can look at a text and wonder, what's this one telling me now? But maybe if they would have called you, you'd be very warm towards their message. And then because also the other aspect of communication, when somebody listens to you, they listen to your tone, especially when you sit upright and you speak while you're smiling. They cannot tell you're smiling, but they can interpret, the way the brain interprets is that this is a warm person, okay? So depending on how you talk to someone, you're more able to influence them and sound more trustworthy. And maybe to give an example, it's these people who call you and even con you and persuade you to
do something,
to dial some PIN numbers, because you listen to them for 10 minutes and then you end up giving your PIN and then they didn't text you.
They didn't text you, yeah.
Or they waited you to call back.
So true. Call wins.
Call wins.
Yeah.
And then remember what we said about the tone and the 38%. There's a weight it carries more than the words you're reading.
True that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't like text, man. I mess things in text.
And also it's easier to remember somebody when you've had a conversation, even if you've not met. But a message and just a number, it can be a bit difficult to trace it.
Yeah. Best motivational phrase you ever used or had before a big game?
Whoa, they are many. There are many, and I think they're always seasonal.
Yeah.
But what can come to mind? What comes to mind? I think one that is always consistent is you can always restart as many times. So as much as you've made mistakes, you can do something about it. You're not powerless. You may have lost an opportunity, but learn to separate yourself from events. So you can go back, learn, relearn, and then try again.
Try again.
So you can always restart at any moment.
I like that. Yeah. And it's a word we are leaving to all of viewers today and the Kenyan sports fraternity. We can always restart and make this better. Yeah. One word that every winning team should use more often from a communication perspective.
I think you can just have empathy.
Empathy.
Yes. Empathy builds connections, it builds trust, it builds authenticity. So when you embody that and carry that with you, then you're able to influence a lot of outcomes.
Yeah.
Because empathy is also the base of emotional intelligence. Yeah. So have some empathy when you're communicating to people and when you're communicating to yourself, especially in moments when you feel you give your best shots and you didn't get the outcome that you wanted. Empathy plays a very big role. You extend grace to yourself, you're able to do the same for others. And you're able to learn from that, separate yourself from the event, and again, restart as many times
as you can.
Yes.
On to the funny segment. We usually love this because it usually throws off our guests a little bit. Okay. If teammates could use only emojis, this is an only emojis expression during a match. Which emoji will you use the most?
During a match?
During a match.
Is it a high pressure match or which match? Let's
say high pressure match. Let me pick on the high pressure.
I think I'll use that emoji which has, What's happening
What's
here?
happening? Eh?
Yes.
Pass me the ball.
Yeah. Think.
What's the funniest miscommunication moment you ever experienced in your sports career?
Okay, let's see. I can't put a finger on any yet, but I think...
Can be even as you coach, you're coaching your students or people.
Maybe I can say something that I've witnessed. Yeah, something that comes to mind at the moment is something I'd witnessed where you have given the players the instructions and you're going to score that way. And then one player gets the ball and they're coming this way. They're assisting the opponents. And I'm wondering, when did you talk with these people? When has the money been? Where are you going?
Where are you going? What's up? And they're passionately going to that direction.
They are now moving back to your defense. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So when you're trying to figure out what happened, and they explain to you and tell you, but you said when we pick the ball, we move maybe in the direction we are facing, and they could have been facing their own defense instead of. Yeah, so you have to communicate with clarity that I meant when you get the ball, you turn and you move with the ball. You attack, don't attack your teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just reminded me, this is a real situation. It happened. Provincial finals. We are playing against Maseno. And our teammate, we just took a timeout. The game is hot. It's high pressure. And the game starts in the middle of the field. So the play, whoever was getting the ball on the side of our court. So the player got the ball and seriously attacked our basket. And he dunked on it, seriously, like, poop, or like, what? It's our basket. So,
And he thought it was a score.
Yeah, he thought that he's attacking Maseno's basket.
Oh, my goodness.
But he's attacking our basket, and he dunked on our basket seriously. So later on after the match, we're asking him, like, hey, what's up? Why were you doing this? We were stopping you not to go. He was like, in my mind, I thought you guys were cheering me.
My goodness.
Man, it was hilarious, and this surely happens.
Yeah.
And I've seen videos about it even in the professional setup where guys just because of miscommunication.
Yeah, very true. Or sometimes you find the coach is shouting, move, 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 and you think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then you cause a very big blunder that costs the team.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, you look at the coach expecting him to be like, and he's just throwing a bottle down. What did you just do?
Yeah.
You're wondering, what did I do?
What did I do?
Yeah, so communication with clarity, ensuring that what you've said has been understood, and you only confirm that through feedback. Yeah, are we good? We are good. Have you understood? Yes. But sometimes we communicate, it's not clear, so it's not well understood. Or you communicate with clarity, but it's not well understood, but you'll always tell from the feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If communication were a sport itself, what position would you play?
I think I would play in the midfield.
Midfield?
Yes.
Why so?
I believe that the midfield is very central, just as its name. And in hockey, you find that in the midfield there's a lot of convergence and distribution. When you're attacking, there's a very key role that the midfield plays. And when you're defending, there's a key role that the midfield plays. So in communication, when you are communicating and when you're receiving feedback, I think there's a central place that all these things meet, and how they go out again really matters. So if communications was a position, I would be in the midfield.
The midfield.
Yes.
I like that. And I like the way you've thought it through on how the midfield guys are the ones to disseminate and also receive feedback at the same time. Doreen, it's a huge thank you from Wima Sports for being with us today. And one thing we usually leave with as we wrap it up is, to a 17-year-old you, what will you do different?
Wow. To a younger 17-year-old me, I would be much more brave, much more courageous, and just know that it will work out, especially when I put my best foot forward. I would not disqualify myself at any point. I would just go full out and give my very best so that I don't regret anything. Yes.
I like that. Like that. Yeah. Wow. And viewers, it was a great honor having you as well. We appreciate you. And remember, talent wins games, but communication builds champions. Yeah, communication builds champions. 55% non-verbal. Don't forget, 38%
tonal variation.
Tonal variation.
Yeah, and 7% your words.
7% your words.
Yeah.
As we wrap it up, viewers, it's your host here at Osoita Lodge and Wima Sports, championing sports development. Jermaine signing out. Salute.